1, 2, 3!
Hola, ¿cómo estás? Me llamo Suzy.
Soy canadiense de Montreal. We need to learn how to say that in Portuguese too.
Yes.
Yes. Look at the flag of Portugal, by the way. I got it up close. It has 7, look like some kind of castle, but only 5 kind of shield in the middle, surrounded by a big shield and some kind of globe around it. And what is this flag of Spain?
Crown, many things.
Yeah, like the entrance of a palace, almost like a door at the same time, right?
Oh, I'm curious, when you were a kid, did you have to learn how to draw your flag? It's
You
probably
had to?
gonna be difficult. Yeah, but Thai
The
flag
Thai
is
flag
easy.
is easy. Yeah, you have to learn. Which one is? I think they're both very pretty, to be honest.
Yeah.
Anyway.
There's a thing. What is
I don't know.
what is the letter in there?
It's very colorful. When you look up close, there's so much detail.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So anyway, the 7 differences between Spain and Portugal by GeoFocus channel. Yes, video from 3 years ago, so some things are going to be outdated. Look at the flag is there. Very interesting. Very pretty when you look up close. Seriously, guys, especially copyright content like music or things that we cannot react to because we cannot make any ad revenue. This is why Buy Me a Coffee exists, for the suggestions that are like copyrighted. If you're interested, yes. So
Spain and Portugal are 2 European nations that share a lot of things in common. They're both located on the Iberian Peninsula. They speak closely related languages, Spanish and Portuguese. They have shared historical experiences like Moorish rule and the Reconquista, and they both love football.
And they're
Despite
good.
these similarities, they're very distinct countries, and people from either one might be moderately annoyed if you mix them up. So let's focus on some of the differences and avoid alienating our Iberian friends. Number 1, size. At just over 500,000 square kilometers, Spain is over 5 times bigger than Portugal and occupies around 85% of the Iberian Peninsula. Portugal is 92,212 square kilometers in size.
Think about historically. Like, Spain and Portugal both conquer a lot of the planet, right? Like Africa and South America and everything. And remember when they separate the line? They give a portion of Brazil and everything on the right to Portugal and everything on the left to Spain. Spain ended up getting a lot more. The Atlantic Ocean didn't have as much land probably as you guys thought, because they ended up with like a few islands in Africa and things like this. And Brazil expanded, but I feel like Spain got the better deal at the end, you know? They have more land in Europe and they got the best, the left side, the best side of the two. I don't know what you guys think in Portugal about that, but still, your food has a lot of influence around the world, Portugal, but still.
And occupies around 15% of the peninsula. This difference in size is closely mirrored by the population size of the two countries.
Yeah,
Spain has over 47 million people, whereas Portugal has only about 10 million people. Spain has a longer coastline that extends along both the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea, while all of Portugal's shorter coastline is on the Atlantic Ocean. This makes Portugal a bit of an outlier among southern European countries, though it's generally considered a Mediterranean country anyway. Spain's larger size gives it more diversity in terms of landscape and climate. Northern Spain gets a lot of rain and is densely forested, whereas southern Spain is Europe's hottest region with 45-degree days in summer.
A lot of you in the comment also, they are from Barcelona, right, near France, and they speak French in the comment.
Oh, really?
I didn't know a lot of you in Barcelona can speak French. Bon, le français c'est ma langue maternelle. I'm French-Canadian though. But
Portugal lacks these extremes. It doesn't get as rainy or as hot as its neighbor Spain, and I mean at the extremes. Number 2, Spain also has more cultural and linguistic diversity than Portugal. For example, in Spain's autonomous community of Galicia,
I think it's closer to Portuguese than it is to Spanish. Galicia, northwest. They also have very nice traditional dance.
I look like it
Many
has
of the
land.
Yeah, right? But it was, I think it's more autonomous in a way.
people speak Galician as their native language, which is a separate language from Spanish, very closely related to Portuguese in fact. The Basque Country is also home to a regional language, the Basque language. While spoken by a minority in the Basque Country today, the Basque language is an important part of the area's history and culture. In Catalonia, the Catalan language is spoken, alongside Spanish. It's also spoken in Valencia and the Balearic Islands, though some Valencians insist that their variety of Catalan is a separate language because of their distinct identity. There's also Aranese, a variety of Occitan, which is closely related to Catalan. These languages are all co-official with Spanish in their respective autonomous communities, and there are others that are not official languages but are recognized by the
I
government.
never thought of Basque. The word Basque sounds French. I don't know if there's some similarity to French, but it sounds like a French word.
Astur-Leonese and Aragonese. Portugal has one official language at the national level, Portuguese, and Portuguese is the main language for almost all of the country. Another language, Mirandese, a variety of
Mirandese.
Astur-Leonese, is official at the regional level. Portuguese Sign Language is also recognized by the government.
Oh.
There are a couple of other languages spoken by small numbers of people, and Portuguese is spoken with different regional accents, but there's less linguistic variation in Portugal than there is in Spain. Number 3, autonomy and separatism. The cultural and linguistic differences in Spain have a political impact as well. I'm sure this is an oversimplification, but many people in the different communities feel that they are distinct from other Spaniards and want recognition for their distinctness. For some people, this means autonomy and the recognition of their language and culture, and for other people, this means independence from Spain. The main example at the moment is Catalonia, where somewhere around 40% or 50% of the population supports independence.
This reminds me of I grew up in Canada, right? And I'm from Quebec, where people speak French as their first language. In 1980, there was a referendum to separate Quebec province, which is about 20-25% of the population of Canada, from the rest of Canada because we're speaking French. We lost very close. And then in 1995, we lost even closer, I say we lost. I didn't carry their weight. We lost 50.4 to 49.6. And people were mad at immigrants back then because all the immigrants voted against separating. So there was a lot of anti-immigrant sentiment in Canada, in Quebec, growing up. That's why we are known in Canada as the most racist province.
Oh.
Because we wanted to separate, and for a long time we blamed immigrants for not being able to do so because they all voted against it. But I think the more we progress, we've now become the most leftist province in Canada.
Oh.
So, yes.
But this depends on the survey or vote you look at. There's a separatist movement in the Basque Country as well, but its support is much more limited, around 17%, because the Basque Country has fiscal autonomy and keeps most of its own tax revenue, and that helps keep the population relatively satisfied with Spanish rule. Portugal doesn't have any significant separatist movements. Unlike Spain, the different parts of Portugal never governed themselves as independent kingdoms, and there's a more united sense of identity amongst Portuguese people. Number 4, Spain and Portugal have different colonial histories. In the early 15th century, the Kingdom of Portugal and the Kingdom of Castile, which later became part of Spain, began exploring the Atlantic Ocean to avoid trade competition with other Mediterranean powers. This led to the establishment of overseas empires, but the areas they explored and later settled were different.
So historically, a big part of Brazil didn't go to anyone, or nobody went there. Remember, I think that nobody went there because they were doing a lot of trade near the coast, right? With the fishermen, or they were trading minerals or thing. And the forest was very dense, the Amazon, and very hard to go there.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
There probably a lot of trade too.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Following the path of its long Atlantic coastline, Portugal went down south, down the African coast.
But they took a lot
Portuguese
of
explorer
Africa
Bartolomeo
on the
Dias reached the Cape of Good Hope in 1488, and Vasco da Gama explored the Indian Ocean in 1498. Here, Portugal encountered the already well-known trade routes and empires of the Indian Ocean, such as the Ottoman and Safavid empires. Spain tried to avoid competing with Portugal by sailing across the Atlantic, believing they could reach Asia. Of course, they didn't reach with Portugal.
Look, is there something? Do they have Portuguese in Indonesia? And then they have Spain, of course, in the Philippines, and part of India also, on the east coast. And also, Spain is in certain country in North Europe? Is it Poland? I don't know. I cannot see well.
Portugal go everywhere.
Yeah, see? Originally, Texas was part of Mexico, not USA. USA stole land to Mexico. That's why it's smaller on the map now.
By sailing across the Atlantic, believing they could reach Asia. Of course, they didn't reach Asia.
We have got to the
Guys, we are broke. We cannot pay for the ads. Do not get ads this month. Next month, though.
Well, not yet anyway. Instead, Christopher Columbus, sailing under the Spanish flag, even though he was from Genoa, Italy, quote-unquote, discovered the Americas, the Caribbean.
But Jacques Cartier from France also discovered a huge part of Canada, actually. All the East Coast and Quebec were discovered by French.
To be more specific. Of course, he didn't actually discover them, because there were already people there, but his travels there made Europeans aware of the Americas. The Portuguese eventually made it to the Americas too, but treaties between Spain and Portugal ended up dividing the world into a Spanish zone and a Portuguese.
See, they got nothing. They got a part of Greenland, and they got some island in the coast of Africa. And then Spain got a lot. But they didn't know back then that they were not getting a good deal. That's what I said earlier. I don't think they knew that they were not going to get a good deal.
As a result, Spain and Portugal have left their imprint on different countries. This is why most countries in South America are Spanish-speaking.
Wow, look
but
at
Brazil
this. French, though. The French Guyana. Dutch? Is it Suriname? I think it's Suriname. And then English here. I think it's Guyana without the French Guyana. Is it? And then you have Spanish and Guarani. I don't know what Guarani is. Is this Paraguay? What country is this? And then Spanish and native language, and then Portuguese.
is Portuguese-speaking, for instance. Number 5, time. What do I mean by time? How are they different in terms of time? Despite being on roughly the same longitude, Spain and Portugal use different time zones. Portugal, aside from the Azores, which are 1 hour behind, uses the same time zone as the UK, UTC 0. Spain, on the other hand, uses UTC +1, like most of Western Europe
Here,
and Central
UTC
Europe,
+8
even though in some ways it might make more sense if it didn't. In the summertime, solar noon, meaning the time when the sun is directly above you in the center of the sky, is at 2:30 p.m. in parts of Western Spain, rather than, well, noon. This time zone's oddness might be partly responsible for Spain's habit of eating and working much later in the day than Portuguese people do. Portuguese people have lunch around 12, while in Spain the typical lunch break is from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. This was historically a nap time known as the siesta, though these days not everyone takes a nap. It depends on your job.
What time did they eat dinner? 10 p.m.?
True.
That seems crazy. In Canada also, it's closer to 12 in Portugal.
Here, 11:30, 12.
Yeah.
11:30, 12. Actually, 11:31.
Yeah. 11:30 to 1.
Yeah.
And where you work. Then they have dinner around 9:30 p.m.
see?
But that's actually not that much later than in Portugal.
Oh.
They tend to eat dinner around 9 p.m.
Why?
So take this with a grain of salt.
Do you have something similar to Sweden? They have fika in Sweden, the coffee break. In Canada, we don't really have a break when you work. You don't really have break. You work all morning, lunch, and you work until you're out of your job. And then usually, because a lot of people work from either 8 to 4 or 9 to 5, that's why when they arrive home, they eat. So they don't eat at 9:30. I'm guessing that the work hours maybe are different in Europe.
Yeah.
Maybe
right.
that's why, because this is late. A lot of people sleep at that time in Canada to work the next morning. They need to
Yeah.
wake up at 6.
Yeah, true.
Because-
so when did you guys wake up?
Yeah, because in Canada, let's say that you work at 8, a lot of people need to wake up at 6 and they need to leave at 6:30 because they're gonna they take an hour to go to their job by car. Because not everyone work close to the city they are in, you know?
Number 6. Portugal is more formal. Another difference is that Portugal is more formal than Spain. Both the Spanish and Portuguese languages have both informal and formal you pronouns, but the formal you is used more in Portugal. Portuguese people may also address each other by their professional titles in professional settings, like calling each other doctor or lawyer or engineer, although this practice is declining. Spanish society can be quite informal, especially among young people. Spaniards increasingly use the informal you with strangers, as long as they're around the same age, and the use of titles in professional contexts isn't as common as it is in Portugal. Number 7. Spain is a monarchy, while Portugal is a republic. Spain and Portugal have different forms of government. Portugal became a republic in 1910, abolishing its monarchy. Portugal's system of government changed a few times over the course of the 20th century, but it has never brought back its monarchy. Spain is a constitutional monarchy in which the monarch is a ceremonial head of state. Spain's a little unusual amongst European monarchies in that it re-established its monarchy in 1975. As of 2022, the current monarch of Spain is Felipe VI. Those are just a few differences between
Do you
Spain.
know if it's do you know if it's just like a symbol? The monarch, like it doesn't mean anything, they don't have any power or anything like this?
Where?
Do you know? In Spain and Portugal?
In Spain, I think they still have power. Actually, because I think it's in Spain when people were talking about the king did something, and the citizens not really like it.
No?
Something like
Yeah.
that.
Did you guys know also that in the Philippines is called after King Philips? I think so. I think the country is named after the king of that invaded that conquered the Philippines, and then they lost it to the U.S. and then the Philippines became independent, The Philippines is interesting. If you have a chance to go there, the Tagalog language is very similar to Spanish, and they speak English extremely well in the Philippines too, like better than most European country.
Yeah.
So
Spain and Portugal that stood out to me. Obviously, there are many more, including lots of subtle and not so subtle elements of their lifestyle and culture. If you're Spanish or Portuguese, what differences do you notice between the two countries? And for the rest of the audience, were there any differences in the video that surprised you?
do you learn a lot about Spanish and Portugal growing up?
No.
No. What is the Thai dish that is Portuguese?
The
The
dessert.
tart, right? The egg tart.
No. It's the old dessert. It's tongue yard. It's golden egg.
Oh, golden egg.
Thing like that. Yeah. I was showing for a long time. Yeah, and there is a lot of things, bringing spice into this area.
Oh
thing like
yeah,
that.
true. Yeah, people
Yeah.
love spice. And Spanish is so spoken everywhere.
I think Spanish. I'm not really sure what Spanish did.
I'm sure there's a lot of Spanish influence in Thailand, we just don't know.
Yeah, I think it's probably about like war thing too.
Well, a lot of people choose to learn Spanish as their second language or third language.
Yeah, because like there's a lot of people speak this language.
Yes, much more in Portuguese. Yeah, but it's interesting. I think you guys don't have beef between each other though, Spanish and Portuguese. I think they have a good relationship overall. Yeah. So amazing video. If there's more video about Spain or Portugal that we should react to, please let us know in the comment below. Yes.